Hey guys, I just want to make a quick follow-up video in regards to swapping a 2300 Sniper by Holley into a 87 Grand Wagoneer. A couple of things you need to know before you attempt it. It's really not that big of a deal. A lot of it is just like changing a carburetor, but there are some things that you probably will need to do just because of it's a Grand Wagoneer. It's not a standard Chevy or something like that, but maybe this will apply to those too. So anyway, it's got the 360 AMC motor in it. It's got the Chrysler 727 in it. So there are a few things that did not come in the master kit, and they also did not come in the installation kit that was supplied by a reputable off-road supplier that I purchased this from. So maybe they didn't know that these things should be in there, or maybe you don't need them on all of them. So anyway, so that being said, there's a few things. So we got the Sniper. One thing is for the kickdown for the 727, you will need a bolt. It does not come with the appropriate stud or fixture to use on this kickdown. A bolt with a nylock nut, a couple flat washers. It works fine. It's in a proper location. I didn't have to adjust it, but I got that bolt from a hardware store. It does come with the appropriate stud for the accelerator. It comes with a flat gasket, but it does not come with the 3/4 inch plastic reinforced gasket that would be stock on this 87 Grand Wagoneer. I put that on there for a couple of reasons. One, to help with heat transfer, which I'm assuming that's probably what it was for originally. Two, to help locate everything in the correct location as far as angles of the cables and all that. And then three, I don't know, maybe it'll give me a little bit more torque, I don't know. So anyway, those are a couple things right off the bat that you may want to purchase before trying to install this. Another thing I got was a fuel injection, a fuel pressure gauge. I went ahead and got that. I needed a reducer fitting from a 1/4 inch to an 1/8 inch, and I got an inline T fitting, basically a -6 or -6 AN line to go into the rubber hose there. It did come with 20 feet of rubber hose, which would not be enough if you're replacing all the lines, but it was enough for the minimal replacements that I did. Another thing that you might want to consider is I went ahead and switched over to an MSD coil because I knew this was going to happen, so the weekend before I went ahead and did this. But as you can see, the regulator, the return line is pointing right at the coil. So if you put the normal hose fitting that comes with the kit, it will run right into the coil. I went ahead and moved the coil back a couple inches just by going from one side of the fixture to the other with the bolt. But I got a 90-degree fixture, basically a hose fixture, to go from the regulator to the rubber hose. So that's another thing you may want to get. Another thing that was a slight issue was getting, I believe the Sniper needs at least 10 or 11 volts to trigger, and I couldn't find a wire here that had that during run and start. So I went ahead and went off the main wiring harness. There's either an orange or a light red wire that goes eventually to the coil, but back here it's, like I said, it's orange or light red, and it actually connects to the yellow wires from the positive side of the coil. But anyway, I tapped off of that with a relay, which supplies 12 volts right there when starting and running. So I used that. That's something you will need to do. You can get a diagram on how to wire that, but it basically goes from the battery to a ground, and then it goes to your trigger wire, basically, for the Sniper. And so that was taken care of. That was another thing that we needed to do. And then let's see what else. You don't necessarily need a fuel pressure gauge. It would just help in diagnostics if something was wrong, if it wasn't running right. So anyway, another thing I did was I used some steel line, installed some steel line. So the Grand Wagoneer comes with a 5/16 fuel line and a 1/4 inch return line. The Sniper says that you should have a 3/8 fuel line and a 5/16 return line. There were some guys on the forums that said that you didn't need that. You could just use the stock lines. I didn't want to take a chance, so I went ahead and I used the 5/16 hard line and used that as the return, and then I just ran a new, mostly hard line, 3/8 line. So it's basically rubber from the throttle body into where it turns here where the old fuel pump used to be. I ran some new hard lines, and then they come down, and then from the motor to the frame I used rubber lines to the new hard line, which you can see right there, and then the old 5/16 fuel line as the return. So that goes back behind the steering column, then goes to a filter, then goes to another hard line that goes back underneath the gas tank, the skid plate, between the skid plate and the gas tank, all the way to the back of the frame. For those of you guys who don't know, you can get to the sending unit from the back seat, below the carpet. You'll have to drill out a few rivets, and then you can replace them with screws. I found that the carburetor gasket works pretty good as a new seal that came with the kit. And so what I did is I took out the sending unit, cut off the 1/4 inch, or drilled out the 1/4 inch line, cut it off, and then I tack welded a new 3/8 line in there. And then I was able to drop the back of the skid plate enough to fish these hoses through above the rear end and then back to where the fuel pump is mounted, which I'm not going to be able to show you, but it's basically the frame behind here. It's on the other side of the frame, between the frame and the spare tire. So anyway, that's a few things that you'll need to know as far as if you're doing this with a Grand Wagoneer. I did have to order a new sump filter, I guess I'd call it, or intake filter. But I mean, you might be, well, I guess you could not preserve the old one because it would be only 5/16. So I did have to order a new one of those offline. It got here in a week or so. So if you guys have any questions, just post them down in the comments and we'll go from there. Thank you.